terrible thing is coming.
What do you mean?
Look. The field. The field. It's covered with blood.
Blood? Don't be silly.
This nightmarish vision introduces us to the world of Watership Down, the 1978 animated children's classic based on the best-selling book by Richard Adams that bucked the Disney trend by introducing children to a traumatic and violent adventure of displacement and environmental destruction. Though many who watched Watership Down as children may remember the images of bloodied rabbits most clearly, this gruesome children's movie grapples with politically and environmentally charged themes that, as adults, now parallel our global actions in an ecologically ravaged world. Today, I'm going to analyze this animated adaptation of Watership Down as an allegory for humanity's varied reactions to climate change. Specifically, I'm going to examine the 3 different rabbit groups that we encounter during the movie in order to reveal how many of us currently react to a changed climate. And ultimately, I'll unpack what insight Watership Down can offer in terms of how we might chart a path of action forward through the growing storm of human-caused climate change. The first and primary band of rabbits are the protagonists of the movie. Fiver, Hazel, and the crew begin the movie as refugees from the violent destruction of their warren at the hands of human development. We see the crew take a proactive stance right from the start when it comes to their impending environmental doom by begging their leader to heed Fiver's pleas to flee the warren. Throughout the movie, they search for a place where they can find some form of peace away from humanity's destructive hand. Despite this constant drive for comfort, their sense of community and strong moral compass drives them to save others from similar fates. We see this in Hazel's unsuccessful attempt to free the female rabbits from the barn, or the band's mission to help the rabbits under Woundwort's reign. And they attempt these dangerous missions in spite of the fact that they already have found a place apart from human-caused destruction. This is a key lesson because Watership Down visualizes a group that is willing to do what is right, even though it means abandoning their newfound comfortable lifestyle. Hazel's warren in many ways parallels communities that are fighting climate change on the front line. They understand that many are in need, and they're willing to give up much in order to stop the atrocities they've also experienced and know will happen again. The 2 groups that Hazel's crew encountered during their flight from the warren, however, represent the flip side to the climate action coin. Both of them display humanity's relative inaction when faced with global climate change.
We need dignity, and above all, the will to accept our fate.
Cowslip's warren visualizes a perfect parallel for our collective global apathy despite our knowledge of human-caused environmental destruction. Much like those of us who remain paralyzed when faced with the challenge of creating a world that is resilient in a changed climate, Cowslip has all but accepted what he believes is inevitable. His warren, riddled with human snares, becomes a place of despair, which Hazel's group claims smells of men. But perhaps the most revealing scene of Cowslip's apathetic identity is his outright refusal to help Bigwig escape from a human trap.
He wouldn't come. He told me to stop talking about it.
He told me to stop talking about it. Such a simple line that speaks volumes towards our capacity to ignore something like environmental destruction if it allows us to continue to live in comfort. As Watership Down eloquently reveals through Cowslip's character, this type of inaction in the real world might just get people killed. And finally, the third category of anthropomorphized rabbit is embodied by the main antagonist of the movie, General Woundwort. The general and his army of rabbit soldiers represents a militaristic and totalitarian response to climate change. Woundwort controls who is allowed above ground at any time through a system of marks, and encourages the oppressive conditions of overpopulation within the channels of his warren. Woundwort's actions are not unlike Trump's America First rhetoric. Take, for example, Trump's recent response to the mayor of San Juan, who criticized the president for the federal government's overwhelming lack of aid to Puerto Rico. Instead of working to help the survivors of Hurricane Maria, Trump struck back with a series of angry tweets attacking the mayor's poor leadership abilities. Much like Woundwort, Trump's agenda seems to be based on building walls and military might, instead of building bridges to communities in need. Through these three categories of rabbits, Watership Down seems to contend that there are different paths in the face of human-caused environmental destruction. We see glimmers of Hazel's warren in the activist actions of groups like Earth Guardians, reflections of Woundwort in the constant news coverage of militaristic climate change deniers, and parts of Cowslip in our collective paralysis when grappling with the immense challenge of climate change. But only through the proactive, community-oriented approach of Hazel's warren, or a group like the Climate Justice Alliance in real life, will we successfully create real progress in an environmentally changed world. This video was made possible in part by the wonderful people who support me on Patreon. If you're interested in helping me grow this channel, head on over to Patreon and pledge a small amount of money for every video I release. In return, I'll send you gifts like a handwritten thank you note or an Our Changing Climate sticker. As always, if you like what you just saw, share it around and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next Friday.